All right, today we're talking about a city that practically invented the word fast, Shenzhen. Now, for a lot of people, it's just China's Silicon Valley, right? A giant factory pumping out the world's electronics. But that story, it's a decade out of date. By 2026, Shenzhen has blossomed into something way more complex, way more surprising, and honestly, it offers a fascinating look into what our future cities might be like.
Okay, so let's be real. When I say Shenzhen, what's the first image that pops into your head? Probably a huge concrete jungle, right? Factories, skyscrapers, a city built on circuit boards, maybe with a side of smog. For the longest time, that was the story. But what if I told you that whole narrative needs a serious update?
So what's this number all about? 1,200. That's how many parks are in Shenzhen. Yeah, you heard me right. Over 1,200. This isn't a typo. This hyper-modern, tech-driven city is woven into this incredible network of parks and mangroves and green spaces. It's probably the very first clue that Shenzhen is absolutely not the city you think it is.
And it's not just the parks. Look at the streets. The city's entire fleet of buses and taxis is 100% electric. So if you were standing right here in the middle of the massive Futian business district, you'd notice something, or actually something missing: the noise. It's weirdly quiet for a city this big. And that was a choice, a massive citywide plan to prove you can have insane growth and a high quality of life at the same time.
So you've got to be wondering, how on earth did this city even happen? Well, Act 1 is all about its mind-blowing transformation. It's a story that gave birth to the phrase Shenzhen speed. Let's rewind to 1980. Back then, Shenzhen was basically just a string of fishing villages with about 30,000 people. But that year, it was chosen as China's very first special economic zone. Basically, a giant experiment in market economics. And that experiment didn't just work, it exploded. In just over 40 years, it's gone from a tiny town to a global tech powerhouse and a megacity with over 17 million people.
I mean, it's hard to even wrap your head around the scale of this change. To put it another way, today, Shenzhen has more skyscrapers over 200 meters tall, that's about 650 feet, than any other city on the entire planet. Yep, more than New York, more than Dubai, even more than its famous neighbor Hong Kong. It went from fishing villages to the world's densest skyline in a single human lifetime.
Okay, so that's the backstory. But what's it actually like to visit Shenzhen today, in 2026? In Act 2, we're getting into your playbook: what to see, what to do, and oh yeah, definitely what to eat. First off, let's talk about getting around, because it's shockingly easy. The metro is going to be your best friend here. It has 16 lines, clear English signs, and it is just hyper-efficient. It'll get you pretty much everywhere you need to go, from the shiny financial heart of Futian all the way to the historic old streets of Lohu. And here's the thing you absolutely have to experience in Shenzhen: the contrast. It's like visiting two worlds in one day. In the morning, you can shoot up the Ping An Finance Center to its observation deck, almost 550 meters up in the sky. And then, in the afternoon, you can dive deep into the past. You can go explore Dapeng Socheng, which is this 600-year-old walled fortress from the Ming Dynasty where people still live among these ancient stone walls. It's just wild.
But hey, Shenzhen isn't just a two-trick pony with tech and history. You've got to check out a place that shows off its creative soul: OCT Loft. This place used to be a bunch of old factories, but now it's been totally reborn as the city's coolest arts district. It's this awesome maze of art galleries, little indie shops, and some of the best coffee you'll find anywhere. It really shows how the city has moved beyond just making things to designing and creating culture.
All right, you can't really get to know a city until you eat its food, right? And Shenzhen's food scene is just as diverse as its people. It's a true melting pot of flavors brought in from every corner of China.
So the best place to dive in is Dongmen Pedestrian Street. It's this chaotic, neon-soaked paradise of street food. You absolutely have to try the Kaozheng Yushu. They're these smoky, spicy, grilled octopus tentacles. Then you have the legendary pissing beef balls. Yes, that's what they're called. A snack from a movie that literally squirts hot soup in your mouth. You've been warned. And of course, you can find everything from Peking duck wraps to the local Cantonese obsession, yedziji, this amazing light hot pot made with fresh coconut broth.
And get this, Shenzhen is also the birthplace of a global drink craze, Xinxi Chayin, or new style tea. Maybe you've heard of brands like Heitea or Chaji. Well, they started right here as Shicha and Bawang Chaji. They totally reinvented traditional tea by mixing it with stuff like fresh cheese foam and fruit, creating this cultural phenomenon that just perfectly captures Shenzhen's whole vibe of innovation. Okay, so we've seen the city, we've tasted the food, but What does it all mean? What can Shenzhen's incredible journey tell us about the future of our own cities? Well, in Act 3, we're going to look at why Shenzhen is more than just a Chinese success story. It's a global laboratory for the future.
This quote really just hits the nail on the head. Shenzhen is the place where new ideas about tech, about city planning, about economic growth, they're all being tested out at a scale and speed that's just hard to comprehend. It's a real-world, living and breathing example of what a future city could be.
But what's really wild is where the money for all this innovation comes from. Because unlike most tech hubs, a whopping 93% of all the research and development funding in Shenzhen comes directly from private companies. It's this unique, company-led model, powered by giants like Huawei, Tencent, and the drone maker DJI, that has created one of the most fiercely competitive and dynamic innovation ecosystems anywhere on Earth.
And if you want to see this whole evolution story play out in one single neighborhood, you have to go to Huacheng Bay. It started out as the world's biggest electronics market, a geek's paradise. But by 2026, it's completely transformed. It's not just a place to buy parts anymore. It's a full-on lifestyle district that blends tech with art and culture. You can really feel the future of city design just by walking around.
You know, what's happening in Shenzhen is actually a perfect example of this big national idea in China called new quality productive forces. It's not just about making more stuff anymore. It's about making smarter stuff. It's this huge shift from being the world's factory to becoming the world's laboratory. So think less about assembling phones and more about designing the next generation of AI chips and drone delivery systems. Shenzhen is leading that charge.
And believe me, that future isn't some far-off dream. It's happening right now. The city is pioneering what's called the low-altitude economy, basically opening up the airspace just above our heads for a new kind of transport. Things that sound like they're straight out of science fiction are just normal here. You'll see autonomous robots delivering your lunch, and you might even spot passenger drones, these eVTOLs, doing test flights over the city.
Okay, let's pull all of this together. A trip to Shenzhen is basically a trip to a city that feels like it's living 5 years ahead of the rest of us. But what's so amazing is that it does it in a way that feels surprisingly green, accessible, and centered around people.
So if you take anything away from this, remember these 4 things about Shenzhen. First, just the surprise of it. A huge city that's also quiet, clean, and incredibly green. Second, the contrast. You get a sci-fi skyline and 600-year-old history in the same day. Third, the flavor. A food scene that's both ancient and super innovative. And finally, the simple fact that it's just easier than ever to go and see it all for yourself.
Which, of course, leads to the big practical question that every traveler has. With all this amazing stuff to see, how easy is it to actually get to Shenzhen in 2026?
And the answer, maybe surprisingly, is that it's easier than it has ever been. As of 2026, China has rolled out some of its most open visa policies in decades. If you're from one of over 50 countries, you can just pop in for up to 30 days, completely visa-free. There are also easy transit visa options, and if you're coming from Hong Kong or Macau as part of a tour group, you can enter the region without a visa at all. Now, of course, these policies can always change, so please double-check with your local Chinese embassy before you book anything.
You see, Shenzhen is more than just a place to visit. It's a statement. It's a living, breathing city that proves you can be hyper-efficient and still be livable. A tech hub that can also be a leader in green design. It offers one powerful, very real vision of what a future city can be. And that kind of leaves us with one last question to think about. What will your future city look like?